calling all stations. Clear the air lanes, clear all air lanes for the big broadcast.
So what's going on, everyone? I'm Zazubaar, back again. Oh my God, we're back again. Yeah, Backstreet Boys reference. That's what you guys just got dealt at the beginning of this podcast, which is supposed to be a review, a spoiler analysis of Rogue One, a Star Wars story, on this week's episode of the Sons of Serizawa podcast. Joining me, of course, as always, I have David Joshua Hernandez, aka Gorzard. He's here at the beginning. Oh my God, David, hi.
When did we start recording?
40 seconds ago, 41 seconds ago, 42 seconds ago,
right
43
Bill
seconds ago.
Talking.
Yeah, like the way I was talking and kind of introducing everything, like that didn't come off to you as like, oh, we're recording now. We're all supposed to be professional and on air.
No, I assumed that Bill was supposed to get off his ass and push a button somewhere. He's still
When
in the same
have I
position.
ever had to push a button in the history of anything? Like, I've never had to be like, oh, guys, let me get up and go push the big button, the podcast button.
That's the
Yeah, but
only
is that all of Bill's
autobiography.
Dylan's
Beauty
here.
of it is that Bill's buttons are within reach of his ass, so it doesn't require
It's perfect.
getting up on his part. But yeah, we're going to talk about Rogue One. So
And Andres is here too, live from San Diego. Well, this isn't live, but he's kind of live for us. There's like a 2-second delay.
I'm alive, if that counts.
Yeah, we had to reschedule this twice. One time I think was my fault.
And the other time was my fault because my sleeping pattern has been fucked this entire week.
Yeah, no,
we were convinced that Andres was dead because he just didn't show up, and then we messaged him, and he never responded.
And I woke up at I took a nap at 5 p.m. and woke up at 2 in the morning.
And at that point, we had gone off Skype like 2 hours before. Like David, Dylan, and I talked for like an hour, and we were just like pretty much making fun of his ass the whole time, like just coming up with weird shit that he could be doing as opposed to being there. I don't really.
My theory was that he was watching Rogue One again.
Oh, I mean that would have been.
It's like I pushed Rogue One to the last minute. It's like, oh shit, I gotta watch it before I record.
I'd actually watched it the day prior, so I'm actually pretty fresh for it. But regardless of Andres' being a total fuck up, no, it's fine. It's totally understandable. My reasons the week before were I had to do a school project that I waited to the last minute on. So I mean, I feel like my reasons were a bit more morally reprehensible. But just like some of the characters in this movie, I feel it's fitting for this time of the year and for this podcast. So. As
you were getting in character.
Exactly. So as we mentioned, we're going to be talking about Rogue One, a Star Wars story tonight. As a pseudo-Christmas special, even though Christmas is over by the time we're recording this, and obviously by the time it's released. But this will serve as our end-of-the-year video and our, kind of New Year special. We'll do a 2016 retrospective, I think, next time we do a podcast, and we'll do it at the beginning and cover the highlights and the big hits that we took, but
so many dead people to cover.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think because of what we're talking about tonight,
I think we can do a 2016 retrospective in about 10 seconds. Here goes. Well, that sucked.
Well, right. Good enough. Let's go home, everyone. All right, no. So one that we should mention here because we're talking about Star Wars. Carrie Fisher passed away at the beginning of this week, and then her mother, Debbie Reynolds, passed away about a day or so. About a day after.
It was like the next day.
And it really hit the entire nation hard, and everybody was just like, "Fuck me, what is wrong with this horrible year?" People were like, "Oh, it's not the year. These millennials are bitching about the year. My year was worse back in '55 when there was racism and whatever. My pants didn't fit right." You know what, man? When a massive icon passes away, really tragically, she just was very much so in the limelight in the past couple years, and then she just vanishes like that, and then her mother passes away not 2 days after, a day after. Yeah, that kind of makes the whole year, given everything else that's happened, kind of seem shit. I think that's fair.
Well, I mean, if it was just Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds, then I would be like, yeah, okay, is the whole year really that bad? But there's so many dead people now. Fucking Prince died this year.
Yeah, I mean, David Bowie died this year. Like, Kenny Baker died this year. Oh boy, there was one other big the actor who voiced Admiral Akbar also passed away this year. Obviously,
R2D2 died. I think you already mentioned him.
Christopher Lee.
He wasn't this year. He was last year.
No.
That was last year?
Yeah.
Shit. I didn't realize it had already been that long.
Because I remember we talked about him on the last New Year's special.
Oh, okay. I thought we had just talked about him whenever the fuck he died, but okay.
No, that was a while ago now. But yeah, so
of course, let's not forget the most saddest, most tragic of deaths this year. Poor old Harambe.
Harambe.
Man, fuck that fucking gorilla. I'm tired of
I know. If there was ever like the most obnoxious, most overused meme ever, it was that fucking gorilla.
I like what he's about. I think he's great. I'm happy for all the votes he got in the election.
When my kids ask me about 2016, I'm gonna say it all started with a fucking gorilla.
Oh no, it did not start there.
Was Nimoy this year, or was that last year too?
That was that was last year.
Okay.
Alan Rickman died this year.
Rickman died this year too.
Fuck.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Admiral Akbar died this year.
Yeah. Well, so we can
Gene Wilder.
See, Andres, you're just gonna make us all cut our wrists before we talk about Rogue One. Not that the movie's gonna make us do that necessarily. Yeah. So it's a tumultuous time for the nation, the world at large, and for Star Wars, of course. Most importantly of all, I feel, because we also just had the release of a bit of a turning point for the Star Wars franchise, the first Star Wars anthology movie that Disney has decided to give a go with their acquisition of the rights. Year right after The Force Awakens, Episode 7 brought the franchise back and continued the story.
It's because gone are the days when we wait 3 years in between Star Wars movies. No, now Disney pops up once a year to say, "Hey, remember Star Wars?" I'm like, "Yeah." Remember.
Well, you could also look at it as they give you a Christmas present every December with a new Star Wars movie, and I think that's how a lot of people look at it. That's how they certainly market it. They're like, "Well, the toys are out and Star Wars is out, so kids, guess what you all want for Christmas?" What's kind of funny
is that...
You know what, though? I got a shitload of Star Wars stuff for Christmas, so it's not just the kids.
What's kind of funny is that in the year with a year as shitty as 2016, I bet you a lot of people were hoping for some good old-fashioned sci-fi fantasy escapism to round out the year. Too bad this movie is about it went in the complete opposite direction in terms of overall tone.
Yeah, certainly. This is
I don't know what you're talking about. Fuck. Fucking great.
We'll talk about it. Well, this is certainly a different direction for Star Wars because it's not a saga movie that's telling the story of the Skywalker family or any of the characters we're familiar with. It is a very specific moment in the Star Wars universe that is dramatized, that we've heard about before but never seen. And I feel like it's kind of the perfect place to start with these, you know? Like, the Death Star is an iconic part of pop culture, even separate from Star Wars. Like, you just show that shape to somebody and they know what it is. Or they get the sense of what it's supposed to be, I would imagine. Maybe they just think it's like a pizza cutter or something. I don't know. Who knows? But most people know that that's the Death Star. So that's a smart place to start with a story about a bunch of characters that nobody knows. Because you have an iconic part of Star Wars built in. And then you have other stuff around that, like you got Vader, and you have the Empire, and the Stormtroopers, and the Rebellion, and the X-Wings, and all that stuff. But it's not... but it's not the actors that you know. It's not, oh, Harrison Ford's in this one, is he? It's not the actors that people have grown to love over generations that will get people coming back to the theater over and over again. This is, if you're interested in this universe and you're interested in this particular kind of a story, come out to the theater because we got a fucking thrill and adventure for you. In theory. So let's talk about it. Let's just get into it. So here's my first question for you boys. So Force Awakens was a big moment because it was the first new Star Wars movie for a long time, 10 years, and it was the first direct continuation of the saga in our lifetimes, and the first kind of part of that original story that we got to see in a movie theater in our lifetimes, at least for me personally. So it was a big deal for me personally, and I imagine for you guys as well. So how did this separate kind of standalone Star Wars movie, but that's still about a big iconic moment and a big iconic time for the Star Wars universe, play for you boys by comparison? Which one did you prefer? Just how did your viewing experience stack up? Why don't we start with David, since you're not going to be here for the whole thing?
I loved it. I loved it on the same level that I love The Force Awakens. I've been seeing a lot of people preferring Rogue One to The Force Awakens.
Yeah, I've heard that almost universally.
Which is understandable because The Force Awakens did feel like a remake of A New Hope, while Rogue One feels more like a tribute to...
A prequel to A New Hope, one might say. Yeah.
Well, technically it is, a prequel, but it doesn't feel like an imitation of the original series like The Force Awakens. It feels more like it's honoring the tone and style of the original trilogy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's one of the things I appreciated about this film. The tone that harkens back to the original trilogy and the cameos.
Yeah,
Grand Moff Tarkin,
of course.
Specifically.
Oh, we should have said this right away. I'm sorry. Spoilers. This movie has been out for weeks. If you're going to see it, you saw it. So otherwise, fuck off. Like, nobody cares. Like, you're done. It says spoiler analysis in the thumbnail. So
spoiler alert: the rebels get the plans.
Yeah, they end up blowing up the Death Star, and the rebels win. It's great. You should have seen.
Oh, I hadn't made it that far, you guys.
You should have seen the second one first.
Next, you're going to tell me there's a Statue of Liberty at the end of Planet of the Apes, you bastards.
Well, I'll tell you.
I'll tell you.
So why don't we move... David, is there anything else you wanted to mention in addition to that? Or any other general thoughts you wanted to kick out there?
Nah. I mean, just that I really enjoyed it.
All right, so we got one positive vote from David. Andres, you tossed a little bit of shade earlier. You were like, it's not exactly what people would be expecting from the Star Wars universe. I don't think you meant it as that, but that's the way Dylan took it. So I want to hear your piece on this movie just to see who's right. So, how did your viewing experience with Rogue One stack up to Episode 7 and in general?
So with The Force Awakens, it felt more like it felt like actually like David was talking about tributing and homaging. I feel like The Force Awakens was that one gigantic homage / love letter to the entire original trilogy, specifically A New Hope, to the point where it was basically lifting up story beats from A New Hope. Whereas with Rogue One, I did appreciate that it felt overall the whole entire package felt more original. And allowed for more experimentation within the Star Wars franchise. And I feel like Star Wars is a broad enough franchise that where it is easy to expand beyond what we're used to seeing in a Star Wars movie. So I really enjoyed seeing this new approach to Star Wars. It's more like grittier, dirtier, grimier, like very raw war movie, and applying this stylistic take on the franchise. And so overall, while I think the characters, a lot of people have mentioned that the characters from The Force Awakens had more personality and were overall more memorable than the cast of Rogue One. And to an extent, I do agree with that sentiment. But I feel like overall the overall package, the overall execution of Rogue One, in my opinion, made it a better viewing experience than The Force Awakens, because unlike The Force Awakens, Rogue One didn't reminding me of the past movies. It wasn't going, remember the Death Star, remember this thing, remember that thing, remember carrying the plans in the little droid. I mean, sure, there are moments.
I saw that movie, yeah.
There are plenty of moments where they're throwing in cameos, they're throwing in homages, they're throwing in references to past movies, and a lot of people have taken issue with that. But for me, I feel like it was done a lot worse.
People take issue with everything with these fucking movies. It's like I take issue with the whole thing.
Like you know, there are the cameo with the two guys from the Cantina bar. It's like, my friend doesn't like you, I don't like you either.
Yeah,
they make a cameo, and a lot of people are like, oh my god, why are they shoving nostalgia down my throat? It's like it's a 5-second, it's like a 2-second cameo. It doesn't really bother you in the grand scheme of things.
If I could just say something about that specific scene right now before we lose it. I had that reaction to it, like after I watched the movie. Initially, when it happened, like I turned to my friend and we just started smacking each other. Just like, oh my god, like can you believe that they did that? That's crazy. And then I walked out and I was like, that was kind of a prequel level, like bizarre coincidence that doesn't really make sense now with the rest of the franchise kind of thing. But then I actually watched A New Hope earlier tonight with my brother. He had never seen it. And I took him to see Rogue One the other day, so he actually saw them in a bizarre chronological order that nobody else probably has. And in it, those guys are like, I'm wanted in 12 systems for starting fights. So I think it makes sense that, like, when they probably rewatched A New Hope while writing this movie, they were like, it makes sense that they would be on another planet randomly around this time, starting a fight, because that's what they're known for on 12 other systems. So there's some logic to that there. And there was a lot of that. There were a lot of moments watching A New Hope where I was like, oh my god, like that they kind of paid that off in Rogue One in a sort of retrospective way. But anyway, so what else did you want to pick out there?
While there is a lot of nostalgia baiting in Rogue One, I feel like it was merely like Easter eggs that didn't hinder the overall plot, which was the case I felt with The Force Awakens. So yeah, overall I liked Rogue One more, and I thought it was a really great movie.
All right, well, Dylan, tell him why he's wrong. No.
What?
I like just trying to turn you guys at each other, because, like, I was like, oh, Andres is tossing shade and shit, like, Dylan's, like, taking offense, and then Andres is like, no, I really liked it. And I'm like, all right, Dylan, tell him why he's fucked up. Tell him why he's an idiot.
The thing is, I only brought up that joke about the audience not expecting that sort of tone was because, like, it's like this year they're very depressed, and so they want something that's more brighter, more cheerful. And then you have Rogue One, which is like the opposite, and trying to go the opposite of being bright and cheerful.
Let me just throw this out right now. How many kids were in the theater for you guys? Because for my initial midnight screening, none. When I went with my brother during a matinee, way too many for it to be comfortable. Like, I was watching the scene where the guy gets tortured by the weird squid monster, and I was like, I would be pissing myself if I was as young as some of these kids. And my parents showed me some fucked up shit when I was a kid. Like, I watched Tremors and Gremlins and a bunch of other shit. But I think that freaked me out when I saw it initially, and I was like, oh man, like, I did not expect that in a Star Wars movie.
Children should watch Squid Monsters. It's good for them. Damn it.
No, you know what? You're probably right. You're probably right. Like, if I would have seen that as a kid, it probably wouldn't have bugged me that much. But I don't know, man. It struck me as like I feel like parents went into this one not. You're right, Andres. Not expecting to get this like gritty war movie, and that's what we got. I don't know. I feel like there's some experimentation going on here that may cause Disney to tweak their marketing strategy with Star Wars down the line, because it was still very much a big family Christmas event this year, even though this movie is not really. It's not really for that. It's more for a dark kind of deeper cutting exploration of the Star Wars universe, as you guys have been saying. But I'm sorry, Dylan. Let's get back to you. So your general thoughts and viewing experience compared to The Force Awakens.
Well, first thing I should say right out of the gate is that this is definitely the best prequel.
Well observed. Thank you.
I don't think there's any debate about that. I liked it better than Force Awakens myself. For many of the same reasons that Andres was saying. Force Awakens is such a repackaging of A New Hope. Also, I never really needed an episode 7. Like, I'm happy to watch it because it's Star Wars, but like the first 6 movies, the story that they tell is so complete that I never even like needed another trilogy. Honestly, they could have just done spin-off movies and I would have been happy.
There's no way that was gonna fucking happen though.
But this is just so its own thing, and it's so well executed, I think, and I fucking loved it. Yeah, so.
Well said, man. Brevity is the soul of wit, as somebody once said. So I guess that just leaves it to me then. I mean, I've said a lot already, but I guess the one place I'll start, since I think I differ the most from the rest of you guys, is my comparison to The Force Awakens. I think the Force Awakens emotionally resonated with me, like more long-standing than this did. Like, when I first saw it, like, that night, I was like, holy shit! Like, this was amazing. Like, it blew my mind. And in the theater, watching it, it was easily the best movie viewing experience I had all year. And I loved it just in the theater. Like, I had a blast. Somebody dressed up like Krennic at the theater, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, because I love the way Krennic's outfit's designed, and I thought that was a cool cosplay. Obviously, he didn't have
had that too.
He didn't have the blaster, obviously, but,
I had one guy at my Japanese theater who was wearing the Darth Vader helmet.
Wow, I'm surprised.
That's the closest to any sort of cosplay. That's the closest I've ever seen to any sort of cosplay at any movie theater going experience I've had in Japan.
And they don't have any restrictions on that over there, right? Because we do now after
because nobody does that.
Right. But you can't wear a mask to a movie screening anymore. Like, that would never be allowed. So that's I find it funny that you mentioned that, because you can get away with that there. But I loved it.
It wasn't like when The Force Awakens came out, wasn't there like a rule saying like you can't have any fake weapons?
I'm sure there were. I mean, I'm sure that they repeated that again this year. And again, I saw that upheld at the screening I went to. I was at one of the first screenings in New York. And New York. And there were no fake weapons that I saw. Just a bunch of, like... There were some glow-stick lightsabers, but I think that that's different. I think that it's the blasters and, like, the... whatever the hell the pig guys used in Jabba's palace. I'm sure that they were not welcomed into the theater. But anyway, back... Whatever. Back to my point. I think that afterwards, after I walked out, the details and the beats that really hit me, I started to forget them, and they didn't stick with me after the fact as much as The Force Awakens did. The movie definitely had an emotional impact on me. I went and I read the prequel novel, which I think is kind of better than the fucking movie. But it definitely stuck with me, and I was like, man, there was a lot of cool shit in that, and man, that was a great ride, and just really, really good experience overall. I'm really glad I went out to the city to see that. But The Force Awakens just... that stuck with me for a long time. That set me on a huge Star Wars kick, and it really kind of reignited my love for movies again a little bit. And again, this had a little bit of that, but it not as much as The Force Awakens, but that could all be chalked up to that was the first Star Wars movie we had in a long time, and this is just a year after.
So it doesn't have that... What do you call it? It doesn't have that...
maybe that freshness.
Freshness. But there was a word I was thinking. I'm trying to think of. It doesn't have the. I'll get back to you on that when I remember it.
Well, The Force Awakens is lightning in a bottle in a way. I mean, everybody they wrote that movie very specifically for everybody at their certain ages. They had a very certain direction for how to bring everybody back in the universe, and I think that it was a clever direction. And I think that that's a very smart movie in how it brings that universe back into the spotlight and brings us back in 30 years later. And I just think that it really, again, it resonated with me in a way that a movie hadn't maybe in a while, and this one just didn't. It didn't have the same impact a couple days after. Like, the scenes didn't stick out to me as much. And maybe that is the characters. One of you guys mentioned that earlier. And maybe we can get into all this in more detail, of course. But of course, they're not characters we're familiar with, and there's a lot more of them that we have to be introduced to quickly.
Novelty. That's the word I was thinking of. It doesn't have the novelty of being the first modern Star Wars movie. God, yeah, that dude that one time was hard. We have no idea what the fuck we're talking about. Yes, I would definitely say that that's accurate. But I think this movie it takes a lot of risks. It takes a lot of shots. I think all of them stick to a certain extent. This movie has a lot of merit in it. I think what I said after I walked out was I liked everything in it, but I liked some things a lot more than other things. And I think that holds true. I think all of it's good, but some of it's great as opposed to some of it just being good. So I think that that'll do for kind of general thoughts, but I would definitely say that we're all recommending that it's worth seeing. Because I think it does definitely work as like a deeper, more intellectual viewing experience, and also a fucking insane, just romp of a time towards the end. Like, just big, explosive blockbuster. Oh yeah, definitely, especially when you think about the last third of the movie.
All right, so my next note here we've gotten into a bit, but let's definitely talk about it in some more detail, and I think it works well with what I just said. Did it strike a good balance between being Star Wars and being its own thing? Who's got something to say about that?
I think so, because the movie, I feel, is able to capture the iconography of the original trilogy, while also emphasizing a lot of the dirtier, grimier, dark underseed aspects of that universe. So it's able to replicate it and emphasize certain elements that were always there, but never fully placed into the spotlight.
And it's interesting because it's not about saving the galaxy necessarily, at least in the details of it. Like, it is in the broad strokes, of course, like all of this is. Like, all these movies are about, like, the destiny of restoring the balance of the Force or whatever. But this movie is not about, like, doing a thing that's going to save everybody single-handedly. It's about the process of what it takes to eventually get there. And I think that's what it really has going for it in terms of being this different film in the Star Wars franchise. And I think that the balance it strikes between, because it's not just a war movie either. Like, that's how it was touted up early. It was described as a war movie. It's also a bit of a spy movie, a bit of an espionage movie. It's also a bit of a heist movie. There's more in there than just, it's a hardcore, gritty war movie in the Star Wars universe. I think that there's even more you could do with that this movie didn't even touch on. This has more elements of heist movie in a espionage movie. There's some political shit in there. The prequel novel even kind of makes it a bit of a wartime science gone awry story with the creation of the Death Star. But there's a lot going on there. And I think that there is a balance that it you can tell that it's struggling a bit to strike between, like, this is a Star Wars movie. People know what a Star Wars movie is supposed to be, and if we're not hitting that, they're going to hate it. And doing that while also being, but we're trying to show them a different corner of this universe, and we want to hit those notes in a very specific and impactful way so that people don't think that we're just going to keep giving them the same crap every year. Which I think, it may have been an issue. It may have been an issue for some people, and I think that it bothered me a bit in some instances. The one in the theater that I had the biggest question about was throwing C-3PO and R2-D2 in there. Like, when that happened, I was a bit like, oh, man. Like, one of the things I don't like about the prequels is how self-referential they are to the originals, because I think it gets to the point where it doesn't make sense. And the biggest thing of that for me was always C-3PO and R2-D2. I always thought, like, oh, they don't make any sense being there from the get-go. Like that's nonsense that Darth Vader built C-3PO and
R2D2 makes more sense than C-3PO does. But,
yeah, definitely. But in the context of Rogue One, though, I feel like their presence is much more sensical since they were on that base definitely anyway. They're part of the Rebel Alliance, so it makes sense.
That was the fan servicing moment in this movie that kind of came off to me like they're in it because they're in everyone. So.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. It definitely struck me that way at the time, but I think it's fine in retrospect.
I think a more natural. I think it becomes a problem though because there was a better place they could have put them. There was a more natural place to put them. They could have just had them like
on
you could have
ship.
just caught a glimpse. You could have just caught a glimpse of them going through the hallways on the ship, like right before the guy hands the thing to Leia at the end.
Yeah,
so,
definitely. I think you're right. I feel like the other thing I left the movie kind of questioning was how much I bought visually it lining up with A New Hope taking place in the same universe at the same time. And at a certain point you've got to suspend disbelief. There are certain characters and actors that aren't the same age and are dead, and it's obviously not the 1970s, and we can't make a movie exactly like how they would have made it in the 1970s, but it's quite an effort, and I think it's quite a good job. And more than that, there's such a level of detail that we've never seen in the Star Wars universe, or never been given the chance to really get a glimpse at. Andres, you mentioned grime and grittiness. Like, that Imperial shuttle that they steal from Edu, or whatever that Imperial research base is called, and when they landed on the Imperial like Citadel world, or whatever the hell that was called, Scarif, I think. You just see all this like crap algae and plants and dirt and mud on the bottom of it, and I'm like, we never see that in a Star Wars movie. Because if you were constantly vertically taking off from a planet like that, that would happen.
Or just looking at the stormtrooper outfits themselves, they're not like shiny, polished pieces of plastic armor. They've got a lot of dirt, a lot of mud, a lot of fingerprints, maybe some like blood stains on them at some point. I love the guy
sitting in the transport at the beginning, and he's just kind of leaning over. He's got his blaster dangling, and Jin's just looking at him, and he's just like, "Fuck my life. This is horrible. Why is this my fucking lot in life?"
What they wanted to make it look even more like A New Hope, though, is they should have made the Stormtrooper helmets less symmetrical. Because in A New Hope, they were all made by hand, and if you look at them closely, they're not all alike. They're very different. Some of them are narrower than others, or wider, or whatever.
I do definitely feel that that's where this movie sort of struggles, is that everything is too well crafted. Everything is too...
Like, if they really wanted to recreate Darth Vader's costume, they should have put like a ton of fingerprints all over his helmet.
I don't think they should have put as much money into this movie as they did. This was a $200 million movie. Maybe even more than that. And for a supposedly smaller, scrappier movie in the Star Wars universe, I feel like the budget kind of hinders it in giving that impression. Because I'm looking at this movie and I'm like, I can tell this is $200 million. I feel like they should have saved all of their money for the very end, for that battle on Scarif. But maybe if they would have done that, maybe then the rest of the movie would have suffered, and maybe that final battle would have suffered. I don't know. But there was definitely maybe too much polish in the design that made my suspension of disbelief for this taking place right before A New Hope have to be stretched a bit further, but not too much to any insane degree. But, how did you guys feel this worked as a war movie, though? That was the big thing that Gareth Edwards wanted. Dylan, how about you? You're a guy who occasionally likes a good movie about people killing each other needlessly, so how did you feel about that?
I thought it worked really well, especially at the end. But even just in other places as well, like the sequence on whatever planet it is when Jin's dad dies. Shit. You know what I'm talking about, though.
Again, like I said, I think that one's Edu, and I think the one at the end is Scarif.
Right, the one at the end is definitely Scarif. I just can't remember many of the other ones, but except Jeddah and Scarif. Those are the two that I remember.
Those are the only three that we ever spend any amount of time on. And the Death Star itself, and of course Yavin 4. Which I think is the closest. I think Yavin 4 and the Death Star are the closest things that they managed to recapture from A New Hope. But maybe that's because they're familiar locations and all of the other places aren't. So that's new shit. So we're seeing that fresh, and it kind of looks like it could have just come from The Force Awakens. But I definitely felt that my suspension of disbelief could have been given a bit of a breather if they would have lowered the budget, maybe.
I didn't have that issue. I'm used to the sort of dissonance between the way that the older Star Wars movies and the newer Star Wars movies look. I mean, we had that for years with the prequels because they look nothing like the universe that we know from the original trilogy. This is much closer to that, but just I think fleshed out and shown in more detail. And I think it works given the sort of the different tone of this movie and the fact that it's supposed to be different. And I think this movie is just visually so stunning. Fucking beautiful movie.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we said it when we talked about Godzilla 2014 years ago. Gareth Edwards knows how to direct a fucking movie, and it's a tour de force of just beautiful cinematography and amazing combinations of wonderful, just beautiful physical vistas and insane sci-fi technology and CGI, just ships and stone structures and big CGI monsters and just tons of stormtroopers and lasers, and it's just... I think it's a more visually impressive movie than The Force Awakens, certainly. I think it's more visceral in how it displays this world or this universe, since we see several worlds in it. I think visually the sequence that stuck out the most to me is where Krennic lands on Galen's farm at the beginning. And that ship comes down on the beach, and it's all black, and it doesn't look fun. But it's still a beach, though, and it looks natural and real. And it kind of reminded me of, like, Prometheus and the era of science fiction that Star Wars started out in, where everything was, like, they would literally just go to, like, a beach and just throw some weird, crazy technology down on it, and they would be like, we're on an alien planet! And I loved that. I missed that. So I think that certainly was recaptured. But given that harder edge to match the grittier war movie that this was intending to be, the action sequences definitely reflected that harder edge. Like when they're in that firefight with the stormtroopers on Jeddah, that's a very cool sequence and it feels like you're watching like a Zero Dark 30-esque like Afghanistan era war movie in that sequence. I think that's great. But David, you've been gone for like fucking 10 minutes doing God knows what, so I want to ask you, how do you feel this strikes the balance between gritty, hardcore, different war movie and Star Wars movie? How do you feel it strikes that balance?
I didn't think it was that gritty, to be honest. I mean,
really?
There were elements... Yeah,
David, a lot of people die. I mean, again, spoilers, everybody fucking dies.
I mean, people died in the prequels and the original trilogies. Have you seen Revenge of the Sith?
Not everybody, though.
Yeah, but
David,
the entire
David.
Most of everybody died in Revenge of the Sith. Let's be real.
Yeah, okay, if you're gonna compare it to anything, Revenge of the Sith definitely makes the most sense. But every main character that we followed is killed in the span of like 5 minutes, and it's just like, when you're watching it, it's almost comical after a while.
Comical? What do you mean?
Why are you telling me to hush?
I was telling Andres.
Oh, okay. I thought I was talking too loud. I'm like, well, you know what, David?
Didn't you see his sarcastic
I'll talk as loud as I want.
In my eyes, you're all Lord Snows.
Whatever that means, I appreciate it.
I thought you said you watched Game of Thrones.
I watched the first season, and I was like, this is fine.
Alright, back to Star Wars.
Yes. So David, you didn't think it was that gritty? You didn't think when, like,
I thought parts of it were
Cassian Andor shot that guy in the back, that injured guy in the back who was helping him at the beginning. You didn't think that was gritty?
Well, like I said, parts of it were gritty, and parts of it were, all, fun Star Wars-y.
So you don't think it struck that balance well?
I guess, yeah. I mean, there was that balance, but I thought it was really gonna be like more darker, because that's the way that Garrett Edwards has been.
Okay, that I can definitely see. I did definitely feel like there were moments where maybe the film felt like it was going for a more optimistic approach than initially planned. But
You know what I think part of that problem is?
what?
The score.
Michael Giacchino, I think he kind of lets this movie down. Yeah.
Yeah, well, to be fair, he didn't have very long to work on it. It was
Nope.
originally going to be Andre Blott. He did the music that we all loved in that fucking teaser trailer. And if you listen to what that sounded like, imagine what the whole movie would have sounded like if he had gotten to finish it. God, I wish that had happened.
I imagine the entire sound design of this movie may have been improved by Despot's score being there from the beginning. From Despot's score being there in the end.
Well,
Giacchino would be great in the Saga films, like if they ever need to replace John Williams from Death or whatever.
John Williams said that episode 8 is his last one, so I imagine he will.
And if he had like an entire year to prepare a score, like he should have, but given that he only had a few weeks, it's perfectly fine. But it doesn't match sort of what I think they were originally trying to go for.
Yeah, like I think the title screen is the thing that makes it the most problematic, because
like it sounds like one of those what do you call them? It sounds like one of those royalty-free bootleg versions of the Star Wars theme.
I totally agree. I completely agree.
Listen to like the Nostalgia Critic Star Wars videos or How It Should Have Ended videos, and you can tell whenever they try to make a copyright-free version of the theme, they start out with something that kind of starts with like da 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 da.
You can kind of like you force yourself to hear the Star Wars theme because you can obviously tell that's what they're trying to do. It's very deliberate and maddening.
Yeah, it's like it wants to be like Star Wars style, but wants to do its own thing.
It's like,
so
we're talking about Star
awkward...
Wars, but we don't want to be sued by Star Wars.
Right, and it sounds just like that.
Music to fucking Spaceballs. Imagine that. It'd be great.
Spaceballs!
I would really love to see a fan edit of this movie, though, where they just replace the score with a bunch of old Williams tracks, like from the other Star Wars movies.
There's stuff in there. I mean, there's Williams score in there.
I mean, there's already a fan-made title crawl for this movie.
I mean, the Imperial March is in the movie.
Yeah,
it's not enough. I don't think.
That's what I like with the music from the teaser score, where it's already familiar music, just like redone in a new style.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would love to hear more of what Splot had planned for that. Like, I imagine it would have been amazing because I fucking loved the score to 2014.
Yeah, I think that just to get back to what I was saying a couple minutes ago, the title screen and the awkward kind of. I feel like there was an uncertainty, a lack of uncertainty, a lack of certainty. Sorry, on the filmmakers' part at the beginning, where they were like, "Should we have an opening crawl? Should we do the crawl?" So they were like, "All right, we'll do the long time ago in a galaxy far, far away because you kind of have to do that." Then nothing. Then we'll just have.
I don't even think they should have done that much. Honestly.
No, I agree. I think that was awkward because I was like, "Oh, is there going to be a crawl? Like where? Like wait."
Because then a dude in my theater, a couple seats down from me, was like, "All right, roll the text," and then it was like a cold open, and like I could just feel his confusion.
Yeah.
Imminent.
Because this is not a fantasy. This movie. This is not like a long time ago in a kingdom far away. Like no, there's people being shot in a back alley for information. Like this is not that kind of movie. So I feel like they should have just been boom, we're into the flashback, into the beginning of Galen being kidnapped by Orson, and Jin's mother being killed, and her being saved by Saw. I think that they should just open with that, and then just gone Rogue One, a Star Wars story. But no, they were just Rogue One, and it was like this horrible like Microsoft, like somebody just downloaded the Star Wars font and made it themselves, like title screen. With some very generic, as you said, Michael Giacchino, ba 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 da 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 da, like it could have been any movie ever.
It felt so last minute and tacked on, and I don't understand why they needed that because they already had an awesome title screen that they were using in all of the trailers.
And it's so contrary to the tone that we have. Because, like, Jin's just had her whole life uprooted. She's in this dark cave. And then she's, I almost said kidnapped, but it's not much different. She's saved, quote-unquote, by this random dude she barely knows in a weird, creepy suit. And
Her mother was just killed by the Death Troopers, who are terrifying because, unlike regular Stormtroopers, they can hit their targets.
Yeah, they're great. They have cool guns, too. And then it cuts to her in jail. So I'm like, why do we have the ba-ba-ba-da-da-da-da-da? I don't think that's appropriate. You can build
like
there.
Maybe if you
at the end where you have fucking Princess Leia looking at the Death Star plan saying hope, and then you cut to the Star Wars theme, like that's fucking perfect. But at the beginning, I don't think that worked. I feel like that was them really unsure of how to open the movie, and having that kind of unconfident, like, it's kind of a Star Wars opening, but not really.
Like, maybe if you were going to have, like, a very optimistic-sounding title sequence, maybe from there we could have gone from, like, transitioned into, like, maybe a montage of the swashbuckling adventures of Jin and Saw Gerrera, and then have that optimism suddenly, like, slowly turn into pessimism as we start to see, like, through this same flashback sequence, like the deterioration of their relationship and the eventual fall of Jin's character. Kind of like it's a very weird comparison. But do you guys have you guys ever seen the Pixar animated film Up?
Yeah.
And how they were able to tell almost a complete story through that opening sequence, where you see a montage of the main character's life with his wife, and starting out very happy, and then transitions to that sad period when his wife dies. I'm thinking maybe you could have done something similar here, where you could have one of the biggest complaints that people have given to Rogue One was that we don't get to know a lot about these characters. Rather, we're just being told of what these characters have gone through, if anything at all, especially in the case of Jin. And I feel like maybe we could have had maybe like some type of a flashback montage sequence, and maybe by then the positive title sequence we just mentioned could have been worked into this as a transition for this theoretical montage.
That definitely makes a lot of sense, but I'm only left with one question. David, why the fuck are you brushing your teeth right now? Like, I've been staring at you for like a solid minute, just like, what the fuck are you doing?
I gotta go to work.
Oh my god. David, do you want to say, I better let you finish brushing your teeth. Finish brushing your teeth, and then I want you to say one last thing, and then you can go to work. I'll allow it. Let me know when you're done brushing your teeth. But Andres, the only thing I'll say is I think that this movie was a little bit too ambitious with stuff like including Saw Gerrera. I feel like, again, they weren't really sure how much of him they wanted in there, how big his role would be, how active his role would be in the main story. And I feel like there wasn't enough exposition as to how exactly Galen knew Saw, what their relationship was, what Jin's relationship to him taking her was. I feel like there was just a lot of questions left because this movie had way too much ground to cover in the time it wanted to take. And as it is, they had a lot of characters, a lot of references, a lot of story, while also trying to make it a fun, breezy heist movie, which is what it ultimately kind of is supposed to be.
And it was trying to establish an entire team.
To be fair, though, if this was 1977 and you were watching A New Hope, you could levy the same criticism against A New Hope by saying, well, we're told that Leia and her dad know Obi-Wan Kenobi, but we don't really know anything about that or what the fuck it is, you know?
Yeah, alright, sure. I don't think it's as big of a deal, though, because you get what Obi-Wan is supposed to do, though. You get, like, why that would be a thing that will be brought up at that moment. And I guess you could say the same thing here, where it's like, oh, of course he's going to get this dangerous rebel dude he knows to save his daughter from the Empire. But to leave her with him forever, like, it's a different proposition. And I feel like their relationship should be more fleshed out for that reason. I read the prequel novel, so I know. I get it. It makes sense to me. But for anybody who didn't do that, I feel like that's a question that might bug them later. Especially since they're reunited, they have one conversation, and then he dies, and then she's off doing something else, and then she dies. So I do feel like there's uncertainty on the filmmaker's part as to who should be included where, how much they get to do before they die. So David, before you go to work, I want you to say one last thing very specifically about the characters, the new ones versus who they brought back, and your satisfaction with both.
Well, like you guys said, most of these characters are not that memorable, but I did like, what was the name of that robot? KS2O?
K2SO.
K2, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. He was fucking wonderful.
I thought it was the best part of the movie.
Yeah, I agree. Not the best part, but he's up there.
I really like Donnie Yen's performance, surprisingly.
He's also wonderful, yeah.
I thought it was going to be just a secondary character in the background, not doing a lot of shit.
I loved how much FaceTime he got, yeah.
Yeah, I was satisfied with
his... He got the best joke in the movie, too, where they put the fucking the fucking bag over his head, and he's like, "Are you kidding me?" Oh, so good.
Yeah, well, the characters are really fun, but not memorable. That's my overall thoughts on that.
I disagree with that point. I think that they're all very memorable.
Yeah, I don't understand this criticism that everybody keeps levying.
I saw it twice, though. I saw it twice, so maybe that's just me.
I've only seen the movie the once, and I remember most of them. I remember most of their names.
Okay, that's the weird thing. I don't remember any of their names, but but that's because I can't pronounce them. Like I can't pronounce Chimyet Imwe or whatever the fuck his name is. I know Jin Urso. I know Cassian Andor. I know.
So Baze Malbus is the guy who's always with Donnie Yen with the gun and shit.
What the fuck is the pilot's name?
Bodhi something?
Bodhi, that's it.
Bodhi Rook. Bodhi Rook?
See, when you say them, I remember them because I remember them being spoken in the movie, but I can't remember them.
By the way, doesn't Bodhi Rook look a little bit like Sid Part 2?
That's hilarious because he made a video about how he had a problem with that. But anyway, I won't call. He had
a problem with looking like a Star Wars character.
Not that specifically, but he had a problem with this film in regards to that character. So you can go watch his video on that if you want his opinion. I won't speak to his opinion. I'll just say that he has a video on it, so go check it out. So I think that it's funny you noted that. I guess. Anyway, so David, I definitely think that we don't get to know a lot about them, and the arcs that they all go on feel a bit anticlimactic and they leave the audience feeling a bit indifferent, maybe a bit confused as to what they were supposed to take away from them. But I feel like they all get a bunch of really good moments, and we enjoy them for when they're on screen, and they definitely feel like they're necessary to the story, although I felt a bit kind of like a question of why exactly. Like it definitely felt a bit convenient that Donnie Yen and his compatriot were there, like that they just decided to tag along, because Donnie Yen was like, "Oh, she is with the Force," and his friend was like, "Well, I gotta follow him, so that's where I'm going." And that was the point of his character. Like his point was like, "I follow the Force. I have hope. I have optimism that things will work out because I believe in the Force." That was the point of his character and kind of the point of the movie. That if you put your faith in the right thing, it'll eventually work out for you. But I definitely felt like it felt. Hey man, they blew up the Death Star eventually. It wasn't them, but they eventually did. A crazy kid from Tatooine with his Womp Rats and his T-16 did it. So at the end of the day, everything worked out, I felt. David, how'd you feel about the CGI characters they brought back? And when I know, we could talk about the characters that were like the special effects and everything too, but I mean Tarkin and I mean Leia. Did you hate them like a lot of people did?
No, I love the fact that they brought back these characters.
I loved Tarkin.
Yeah, I loved
Tarkin. I hated Leia. I was like, which is kind of sad. Well, which is sad given what happened this week and what we talked about at the top of the podcast. But when I saw it, and I'm just talking about gut reactions initially, at the end of the day, I think you kind of had to have a moment like that. So, fine. But initially I was like, ooh, no. It does not... I totally see that as a video game cutscene. My second viewing experience, I knew it was coming, so it did not bug me as much, but I don't know. So David, you were fine with them, though?
Yeah, I was very satisfied with Tarkin.
All right, then. So, as Peter Cushing himself had to do at a certain point, more less offensively his character, when you gotta go, you gotta go. So, David, get blown up in the fucking Rebels raid on your house and get the hell out of here, you filthy animal. Now.
I have to. All right. I'll see you guys, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, David. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, your hair's
Take
gonna
care,
need that
man.
Happy New Year, Bill.
Fuck off.
Bye.
Good night, Dave.
Night.
He had to go do his job at McDonald's, which will probably be raided by some rebels.
Now that he's gone, we can talk shit.
I don't want to waste time talking about him. I want to talk about Rogue One. So why don't we keep on talking about the characters that they brought back? I really liked seeing Peter Cushing in a movie again, man. That was fucking cool. I really enjoyed that.
I wish they
didn't
use
I
him
was
as
happy
much.
I was happy to have Tarkin there in some form because it wouldn't have made any sense for Tarkin not to be there in some capacity. I wasn't expecting us to have as much of his there was, and that's where I think it becomes a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Is that the effect, while very impressive and amazing and state of the art and the best that's ever been done, I think they linger on it a little bit too long. I think they would have been better.
Again, way too confident, way too ambitious, as I said before.
I think they would have been better served in that first scene he was in to just show the back of his head and then maybe have him turn around once for a line or something at the end, and then just show the back of him later on, telling them to fire the Death Star at the planet. Like, I think there was too much of him in the movie.
Or just using more like shadows or reflections for us to get a good look at him.
Could have popped up on a hologram. Could have popped up on a screen. Something, anything. I think that the biggest sin was they didn't just have him sweep in and take the Death Star from Krennic at the last minute while he was fucking up on Scarif. Like, that's when he should have come in and been like, this is my battle station now. And he kind of was, but he was in the movie way too much before that, where he was just on the Death Star or near
like
it.
they really wanted to make this whole entire subplot about the feud between him and Krennic.
And I really did like that in the prequel novel. That's great.
Krennic ain't got a prayer, though, because Bill, I know you haven't read Tarkin, and clearly neither has Krennic, because if Krennic had read Tarkin, he would know that Death Star was always Tarkin's. Like, he may have been under the impression that he was going to get to run it, but nah.
Yeah,
Tarkin
but
was
Krennic built the thing, though. He made sure the thing got built. Like, Tarkin and everybody else were, at a certain point, were kind of like, do we really need this thing? And he was like, yes, we absolutely do. And he wasn't doing it because he was like, oh, we need it for peace or whatever. He was doing it because he was like, I want to use this to up my ranks in the Imperial, in the Imperial hierarchy. And I really enjoyed his character for that. Gareth Edwards said early on when this was being promoted, he wanted this to be the first working class Star Wars villain, and I fucking loved that. I thought that was fucking great.
But what Krennic doesn't realize, and the reason he gets played, is that much like Mongo, he is but pawn in Game of Life.
Yeah, I mean, the Death Star was a thing before he got involved with it. Again, he made sure the thing got built. His sweat and blood got it to where it is in Rogue One and in A New Hope, and then Tarkin swept in and actually did stuff with it.
Palpatine's intention was always for Tarkin to be in control of the Death Star. Tarkin is somebody who Palpatine had a keen interest in and sort of...
Well, nobody likes Krennic. That's the thing. Everybody hates him. And I mean, nobody likes Tarkin, but everybody respects Tarkin. Like,
nobody likes Krennic. He's the only Imperial with an Australian accent. They're like, that's fucking weird. Get away.
See, that's why I like him. That's why he's my favorite. Like, I like him more than I like Tarkin. I think he's a more interesting character because he's got more like grit to him, and he's got more of a scrappiness to him. He's a manipulator. He's the guy who gets into a conversation and he's like, I'm gonna work you guys. Like, I'm gonna work you guys into doing what I want. Tarkin's the guy that's like, all right, you see that planet that you live on? I'm gonna blow that up if you don't do what I want. Which I guess is manipulation of a sort, but a different kind, I feel.
Well, if you want to know how much of a manipulator Tarkin is, you need to read the damn book. But
I'm sure that he is, but it's different. Because Krennic is more about personality.
Krennic came across to me as being very... what's the word I'm looking for? ineffectual, I guess. No, there was another word I was looking for, but I guess...
Well, he overcompensates, because he didn't come from, like, a rich upbringing or anything, and I wish this was more emphasized in the movie. But he clawed his way up through the Imperial ranks to being this director of their big fucking powerful super weapon. And
the problem is he's trying to be this guy who's on top of the hill and, like, controlling the Death Star and shit, but he's
out of his depth, though, certainly.
He's bad at it. He's fucking bad at it. Well, and everyone else around him is bad at it, too.
But he gets the thing built, though. That's the thing. He gets the thing built.
At least he has the ability to see that that everybody else is fucking up at it as well, because there's that great scene on the planet where the explosions are happening, and he's like, "What the fuck are you guys doing? Like, send in the garrison." Like,
yeah, that was a great scene. And I liked how screamy and angry he was. Like, there's a great contrast between him talking to Tarkin and all the other Imperial officers where he's got an edge to him, he's got a "fuck you, I'll do whatever I want" kind of attitude. But dude, the second he's up in Vader's crib, oh man, he's all like, "Lord Vader, how are you doing on this fine day?" And it's such a great contrast to the next scene where he's in the base on Scarif and he's just like, "Are we blind?"
Yeah.
Just really
well, everybody in the galaxy is afraid of Vader for good reason.
Yeah, oh man. So, okay, we haven't talked about him much. How'd you guys feel about Vader?
I fucking loved him. He was gold. He was the best Vader shit in the entire franchise, honestly, at the end.
Oh, man, I think Vader and Empire, man. You can't top Vader and Empire Strikes Back.
But we never get to see him. We never get to see him cut loose in the original trilogy, and that's what I fucking loved about it.
Oh, sure, that action sequence, my god, ooh, that's some memorable, like, scene. That's some movie stealing shit right there. That is probably, it might be the best scene in the movie.
It's certainly my favorite.
It's one of those scenes where you're like, Gareth Edwards clearly knows that this is what people want, and he's gonna direct the shit out of it. But it's like Godzilla in that he gives you like such a small taste, and he leaves you wanting more. Fucking prick, I hate him.
He's like, "Oh, this is too interesting. I'm not going to show much of it."
Yeah, there's a lot of criticism of that, but the dude's doing it on purpose. He's trying.
Rogue One is. That's why Rogue One.
It's the greatest Star Wars movie ever made.
The greatest film ever made, honestly. I mean, second greatest film ever made, Godzilla 2014. You know. But,
you see, Gareth Edwards, I think that's crazy, because I think that Monsters is a better movie than Godzilla 2014.
That's certainly debatable. The point to be taken away from this, though, is that one of my movies is the greatest film ever made.
Well, can I say the actual greatest film ever made?
What?
Monsters Dark Continent. Got him! Got him! I got him!
Well, you're wrong, sir.
I fucking pulled the carpet out from under him.
I swear, I'd say I've been bamboozled.
Wonderful.
That's such a shitty carpet. Like nobody wants to pull that carpet.
I did it. I bloody tripped him up. I've heard a lot of criticism of this, and I agree. Why would you have Vader in and have less screen time than Tarkin? Like, Tarkin's more expensive.
Right.
He makes
Tarkin. I mean, Tarkin. You went out of your way to make a not quite perfect, uncanny valley CGI model, whereas with Darth Vader, you have the actor, and the character itself is a dude in a suit.
Yeah, and he's one that people want to see a lot more than Tarkin.
Because again, Tarkin is so connected to the Death Star that he kind of has to be there, whereas Darth Vader, he's not really a part of it until after this shit happens.
Like, you can imply that he has a more prominent role, though.
Which is why when you see him in New Hope, he's not about this whole Death Star business. He clearly doesn't have a bigger role in the Death Star, though, because when he's on that station, like, he's taking orders.
I'm talking about Tarkin, though. In this movie, you could have implied him to have a more prominent role in the battle station, while giving Vader something to do that's more, in the moment. Maybe you just show him investigating Krennic, or what exactly is going on. I wish Vader had come to Krennic, because the fact that Krennic goes to him, while it's cool that we finally get to see that fucking castle and that it's on Mustafar and everything, that's all like really cool fan service and nice that we finally get to see where Vader hangs his hat, so to speak. But man, it would have been so much more powerful if in the midst of all this shit, Krennic would have been doing something, and if a door would have opened and Darth Vader would have walked through. And I think that would have been had more of an impact. But what they did, man, was it badass. But I do feel like he milked it too much. I liked seeing Vader in the bacta tank.
It's weird that Mustafar is the only planet in the movie that doesn't get a subtitle telling us where we're at.
Yeah, well, I think they're like, oh, we want to keep Vader mysterious, and we also don't want to reference
like,
anything that's in the
You're
movies.
right.
Stupid because
even though we already got an actor to play Leia's stepdad.
We don't even see where the Death Star was built because that's on Geonosis, and that's a prequel world too.
It's stupid because one, you can just look at the planet and tell that it's Mustafar, and two, you can go to like Barnes and Noble right now and look at the official art book for the movie, and yeah, it says it right there. It's Mustafar. So if they're trying to keep it a fucking secret, they're doing a bad fucking job. Just put a damn title in the movie.
Because it doesn't look exactly the same as it did in Revenge of the Sith either. It's a lot darker in Revenge of the Sith. There's a sky. We can see a visible sky in this movie.
It looks like a lot of the lava has like cooled and like turned to rock, which
I guess makes sense. It's 20 years on.
Which I don't know if Darth Vader has something to do with that or whatever, but
well, it's also been channeled to go through his castle, and there's like a cool waterfall and everything of lava. That's some cool shit.
Yeah, I like the choice to put his castle on Mustafar, because in the old EU it was on a planet called the June that was all like poisonous and acidic and shit. And that was a cool planet. You could play on it in one of the PSP Battlefront games. But now that the prequels are a thing, putting it on Mustafar, a planet that actually has a personal connection to Darth Vader, is a great choice, I think.
Makes a lot more sense. Although it's a bit like, I mean, you don't look out every day and go, "Fuck me, why did I jump up like that?" You think that's it? Where he's like, "I'm a real idiot. I got to remind myself of my biggest mistake every day." I think that was a bizarre. Maybe he didn't choose it. Maybe the Emperor was like, "Hey, Vader, I built you this great castle." He's like, "Oh boy, I can't wait." And he's like, "Oh boy, dude, I pimped you out so good. Like, you've seen like that show about the cribs, right? Like, I can't remember what it's called, but it's about cribs.
It's called Space Cribs.
Right. It's great. It's on the Space MTV, STV, which I think that's sexually transmitted virus. Anyway, forgot I said that. The Emperor's just high as shit. He's just floundering. He's still he's just, "Vader, hang on. I just gotta finish this joint, and then I'll get back to you." No, Vader, man, I got you this great castle, and I'll take you to it right now. And he's like, "Oh boy, wait, is this, dude? This is Mustafar. Like, this is where I got my arms and legs cut off." And he's like, "Is it? I forgot.
This place is the reason why I'm in a robot man suit.
I must have just slipped my mind that this was that same planet. It's. You say you rolled into the lava. Oh, I channeled the lava right through your bedroom so you can get a cool, like, nice lighting effect. So when you bring the ladies up in there, it's all chill. I'm not bringing any ladies up into there. I don't have anything to offer them. I'm just a mass of meat in a weird suit that has a cool voice. That's all I am anymore."
The least you could do is be grateful. It's called a fucking lava lamp. Look at it. It's beautiful.
I mean, you didn't even cover up the lava. I'm not even attempting to do a Vader impression because I'm not going to embarrass myself. But you didn't even cover up the lava in my bedroom. Like, it's literally just an open flow of lava. I could roll out of bed and just roll it. Like, it could happen all over again. Emperor's just fucking with him.
And then here we have a bacta tank where you can dangle in your free time.
What do you think he's doing in there? Just like, it's nice to float.
Contemplating his anger.
Contemplating the fact that he can't even jerk off. Like, oh. I mean, he probably...
Maybe he can use the Force to whip up some, like...
Yeah, he used... I guess he could use the Force.
Does he even have a penis anymore, though?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like,
or maybe
doesn't even have the gear anymore.
Chewbacca's... Maybe he's got, like, and speaking of gear, maybe he has, like, the virtual reality gear that, like, Chewbacca's father had in the holiday special.
I mean, yeah, he could, like just meditate and just, like activate the parts of his brain that you'd activate when you fucking jerk off or whatever, but We're thinking about this way too
He
much.
uses the Force to activate his dopamine reserves.
Yeah, whatever. I'm sure he can do that, and I'm sure, like in the bath tank, like the Emperor's already a pothead. We already established that. So he's just like fucking just dumping raw cannabis into his fucking bath tank. And Vader, like that's why people complained about Vader's voice in this, like because when he got out of the bath tank, he was like crazy high. Like he was like, "Oh man, Krennic, what is even a Death Star, man? Like that's crazy." Like, why would you even want...
I got this sick joke that you'll enjoy. Then he channels his inner Shoma and says, "Hope you don't choke on your words. Get it? Because it's a pun."
I imagine Vader just like snickering on his way out, and he just like he has to lean on a wall because he just started laughing so much. He just starts slapping his aide. He's like, "Did you hear that, man? Like, I don't make a lot of good jokes, but every now and then I just crack a really good one, and I just have to stop and appreciate it because I don't do it a lot."
There are moments in Empire where he gets sassy with his underlings.
Yeah, but he gets sassy a lot, and I don't feel like people give him enough credit for it. Like, I love how they're shooting on that ship at the beginning of A New Hope. Like, they know what they're about. Like, and at the end of Rogue One, we see that he sees them deploy, so he fucking knows what they're about. They're not fooling anybody. Like, oh, it's a peaceful consular ship. But where is the ambassador? And he just fucking kills the guy. Like, he doesn't give a shit. Anyway.
That Vader impression you just did sounded a little bit like Charlton Heston for some reason. Where is the ambassador?
Grand Moff Tarkin. The power of this battle station does not compare to the power of the Force.
Find your lack of faith disturbing, you damn dirty ape.
He tells it to Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Chewbacca gets offended because he's not an ape, he's a dog.
Vader and Chewie never have any screen time together.
Didn't they in Empire Strikes Back?
Oh, no, in Empire they do, yeah.
Yeah, they ate dinner together. He would be honored if they would join him.
Empire's the only movie where any of them really have any screen time with him. Except for,
Carrie Fisher,
Luke
Leia.
and Leia, yeah. Han Solo never, like, talks to Darth Vader. Like, he's never,
He tried to shoot Darth Vader.
That's true, which, good move on his part. Good job, Han. You definitely shot first. You definitely shot first that time.
I always thought it was a huge missed opportunity that we didn't get to see that awkward-ass dinner that they had after that scene, you know.
I don't think they I don't think they actually sat down and ate after that. I don't think that's what happened. Maybe I'm wrong, but
it would be so much better if it did, though.
Are you sure it wasn't in the extended editions?
I gotta read the Empire Strikes Back novelization by Alan Dean Foster to find out. See if he fills in those gaps.
They did that in one of the Robot Chicken Star Wars episodes, and it was fucking hilarious.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
I got a couple more characters I want to bring up, though. Two that I thought were underused and definitely missed opportunity to do more with them. I mentioned Saw Gerrera before. Really interesting to see a rebel who just takes the job way too far, just has gone crazy with trying to fight off the Empire. But one I thought just way more so, Galen Erso, man. You get Mads Mikkelsen to be the unwilling constructor of the Death Star, the Oppenheimer of the Star Wars universe, and you only give him like 2 really big scenes, maybe 3. That's it, and he's not even like the prominent part of the scene. Like, don't really give him any screen time with his daughter or the main cast or even the Empire. Like, his big scene is him talking to nothing.
Like, I think we could have also the movie could have benefited from a flashback with Sid Part 2 and giving him his motivation for rebelling against the Empire.
Yeah, because Galen Erso is the one who inspires I keep forgetting his name.
Bodhi.
Bodhi, there you go. I should
just call him Ian.
I should just call him Sid Part 2. No,
yes.
Bodhi, he at the very end, right before he fucking bites it, he says like, I will do what I know in my heart is right, which is what Galen told him to do when he gave him the the message to give to Saw. So I liked that. But again, I wish that Galen and Saw were both more fleshed out, so we got a better sense of that. Now that's maybe why I like the prequel novel, Catalyst, a bit more than this movie, because that's Galen's story. That is the first movie in, like, the Death Star trilogy of that book, Rogue One, and then A New Hope. Because that's about the actual construction and about the inception of it and about the actual construction of the laser. And that's Galen's story. So I think that's why I kind of prefer that, because he's a fascinating character. And again, just doing a metaphor for the nuclear bomb and Oppenheimer in the Star Wars universe is fascinating in regards to the Empire versus, like, separatists and rebels. It's really great. And I wish we would have gotten more go of that in this, and we didn't really at all.
Even though he didn't get much screen time in the movie, though, he has one of the most important roles in the entire Star Wars saga, because he engineers the destruction of the Death Star from within, which, by the way, I totally fucking called 7 months ago. So, yes.
Yeah, you did. I didn't even realize that, but you did. Good on you.
You lowly mortals. Anyway.
You get a cookie next time I see you.
Damn straight I get a cookie. Anyway.
In 7 months.
I'll probably forget, but, you know. There's always the off chance that I won't. But I don't know. I feel like Galen Erso is a really fascinating character, and I just don't think he got enough of a go. His daughter, and because his daughter is so motivated by him, and by the fact that she lost him, I get what they did. I get that they wanted, like, their reunion to be a really powerful but sad moment because they get reunited right when he dies. And again, they kind of pull the carpet out from under you, the shitty carpet that we referred to earlier. But it definitely had an impact. But I don't know. I wanted a little more from him. I wanted more scenes with him and Orson Krennic, because their friendship, well, their kind of friendship, but also their rivalry is different than obviously the rivalry between Krennic and Tarkin. And I would have liked to have seen more of that developed as well, as opposed to Krennic just totally manipulating Galen to do whatever he wants, because he does that in the book, but it's a lot more about, like, he just does a bunch of favors for him and makes Galen just feel like he's totally in his debt. So I feel like that was a lot more interesting. And how he engineers all that. You guys should definitely read that book. It's totally worth getting a lot more of a detailed background for the actual construction of the Death Star prior to this movie. It's really great. But let me just see what else I have here for my notes, so we can kind of keep this going. Let's talk about the action. What was your favorite action sequence? Andres.
Let's see. Maybe anything involving the AT-ATs, because I remember back when we made our first Star Wars special for the SOS podcast, I mentioned those being one of my favorite aspects of Star Wars.
Yeah, that was fucking great. I don't know, man. I really loved that space battle at the end. My God, fucking badass.
This is the best space battle since Jedi.
Yeah, I think it might even be better than that one. The original trench run on the Death Star is great too, and I've really enjoyed the Starkiller base attack in Force Awakens as well. But man, this is just that fucking Hammerhead Corvette, dude. I've never seen anything like that, like, ever. Just two giant starships just crashing into each other and then blowing up a big thing. Oh, so cool. You know what it reminded me of? If anything, it reminded me of that scene in Empire where, not in Empire, in Return of the Jedi, where the Star Destroyers crash into the new Death Star.
Yeah. I fucking love that Admiral, not Akbar, whatever his fucking name is. He was great.
Yeah, he was based on Winston Churchill, actually, I heard.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell by his just flapping lower chins.
You would have thought that was inspired by George Lucas.
You see, maybe.
Akbar had that too, though.
It's interesting you say that, though, Andres, because when I was seeing that, I was like, why didn't they just make him Akbar, though? Why did he have to be a different guy? Because he dies?
Admiral Radis? Radis or Radis?
He dies.
Radis.
He does, doesn't he? Because
well, no, he does die, but I didn't think he had to die.
No, because his capital ship received the plans, and then Darth Vader attacked it. And so yeah, he's fucking dead.
Okay. Gotcha. So most of the Rebel fleet does die at the end is the thing. Not all of them, I don't think. I mean, obviously Leia gets away briefly, but some of the fleet does get away because some of them pop up, obviously, in A New Hope during the Death Star run. Like Gold Leader and Blue Leader in the end space battle in this. You see footage of them that they took from A New Hope.
Fucking loved that Gold Leader and Red Leader came back, and also they actually showed Red 5 get killed, which is very significant because that's the number that Luke takes over in A New Hope.
Yeah, I paid attention to that hardcore for my second viewing because I heard about that. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then when I heard Red 5 in Rogue One, I was like, oh, I'm paying attention now, and I saw it and I was like, oh, that's too cool. And it's interesting because he dies in a very similar way to how Luke saves a guy in A New Hope. He gets somebody just sticks on him from behind and blows him up, which Luke saves another pilot from that in A New Hope. So I think maybe that's another reference for you.
There was, however, a major missed opportunity in that no Porkins.
No Porkins. No Wedge?
You could have easily had Kevin Smith finally play Porkins in this prequel.
See, you guys, he looks nothing like him now.
What?
He looks nothing like him.
I will CG him. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
You might as well just get...
Just do the CG on the face and you'll be fine.
Kevin Smith was in The Force Awakens, too.
Put Kevin Smith in a fat suit. Be great.
He did that for his last movie, Yoga Hosers.
Right. It's a Nazi sausage man.
Damn it, I want him. I just want him to be fucking Porkins. I really want Porkins' a Star Wars story to be a fucking... And it's making a straight-up comedy, because if this can be a war film, then we can have a Star Wars comedy.
Definitely.
We need that. That's right. We should have a Star Wars comedy.
For sure.
We've had comedy in Star Wars, but what about we have this? Yeah. But what if we have the Star Wars in the comedy?
I don't know, man.
We've had our Spaceballs, but we still need our what I just
ball
said.
Space.
Yes. Ball space. I definitely need ball space. That is a thing that is essential in life.
Don't we all? So back to action sequences I liked. I also liked the raid on Edu. I liked how it was... That felt very, like, dark, like, again, Zero Dark 30, like, we're stalking a military base and we're gonna fuck dudes up, like, we're gonna stab people in the fucking neck and shit. I loved that bit where Jin grabbed that stormtrooper by the foot and pulled him off the platform, and he just slipped. And then I
was making the stereotypical stormtroopers can't hit their targets joke earlier, but they actually do in this movie.
There are plenty of stormtroopers
actually hitting things. It was nice to see them, be a threat again.
And the Death Troopers also help that as well because of how lethal they are.
Yeah, they're fucking
Although
great.
I wonder why Krennic gets them. They don't even explain that in the prequel novel. In the prequel novel, they don't even mention the Death Troopers. They just mention that he's got normal stormtroopers. So I don't know what their deal exactly is.
I guess because he's a military director, maybe that comes with the rank.
Why doesn't Tarkin have them?
Maybe he does, we just never saw.
We know. I know that Grand Admiral Thrawn in the Thrawn trilogy, he's got like Secret Service. Like he's got like undercover normal stormtroopers who, if something were to happen, they would just leap out, and they would just get in there and just fucking kick ass. He's also got like an alien bodyguard who can kill anybody, like his own version of Chewie. So maybe he's got something like that, Tarkin. Who knows though? What else? What other action scenes really? I also like that Galen Erso gets killed when the rebels bomb that base because they don't trust Diego Luna to finish the job. I liked all that. I liked all that a lot. That was a good kind of...
I really liked that the rebels in this movie weren't, fucking 100% just like, oh, these are the good guys.
Yeah, again, they really did a good job of that, of striking the balance between this being a very believable Star Wars entry, as well as being a different kind of darker look at this universe and look at these two factions in a war. Like these are not heroes and villains. These are two factions in a war who both have political agendas that they're trying to assert with violence. So they're both wrong to a certain degree, at least the things that they do to try and achieve their goals. And that was the point of Cassian, was he was like, I don't do these things because I think that they're good. I do these things because I think they're necessary to help others, to do the right thing in the end. Which again was the ultimate point of the movie, was we do wrong things and we do hard things and we make sacrifices because in the end it is all for the greater good. Or is it?
I would love to see more of his character, even if it's just like a series of Star Wars novels. I would love to see him and K2SO going around on adventures.
Yeah,
Rogue One.
he would be a cool like James Bond Star Wars character, or even like a Jason Bourne, just like a gritty spy dude going around like just again snapping stormtroopers' necks behind dark alleys and shit. That'd be awesome. Any other action sequences that stuck out to you guys, though? I mean, obviously, I guess we can talk about it now, then. The Vader scene at the end is super fucking... Oh, so good. I love...
Did any of you ever wanted to see some blood when he's killing those dudes?
Yeah, but that's not really what you get, though, with Star Wars, because of the lightsabers cauterizing the wounds. So you don't... Except in A New Hope. In A New Hope, there is blood when Obi-Wan cuts that guy's arm off. But I was fine with that. It's so brutal, though, even without blood. Like, he just massacres those. And what I think helps it, too, is that you just see that those guys are terrified, and they're also, like, running for their lives, and for the lives of everybody else, to get those plans onto the ship and get it secured so they can get away. There was so much tension and drama in that scene, and just fear. Gareth Edwards definitely succeeded at what I can tell he wanted to do, of just making Darth Vader a terrifying monster.
Best Vader kill in the movie, when he fucking pins that guy to the ceiling with the Force, and then he just walks by and casually flicks his lightsaber and cuts the dude in half.
I don't know,
fucking
man.
Great.
I love it when he throws the lightsaber through the door and impales that guy.
That was pretty good too, yeah.
And then he opens the door by cutting it open. I thought that was dope.
Like when all those dudes start opening fire on him, and he just starts blocking every single one. Like, fuck y'all.
And I like that his lightsaber stance was very consistent with the original trilogy. But it was cool to finally get to see Vader do something actiony in a modern movie. That was what Revenge of the Sith promised for some people and didn't deliver. And now we finally got to see him fuck up some bitches.
I guess, like, for many people, the only time where they really got to see Vader do any sort of action would be from, like, Return of the Jedi. In terms of like bigger action scenes, as opposed to just simply swinging the lightsaber around.
No, I feel like Empire is a better example of it because he does more shit. I feel like the lightsaber battle in Empire, I think, is better than the one in Return of the Jedi. I think that it's just so powerful and so scary. Because I feel like that movie as well does a good job of making Vader this relentless force, which is badass in that movie, because that's where we also find out that he's Luke's father and that there's a man under there. It's really, really cool. Empire Strikes Back is a good movie, as it turns out. But so is this, more importantly.
Is it really?
What did you guys think of the end? Where they actually get the Death Star plans and actually transmit them and everything. I thought, at the end of the day, the whole thing was a little too complicated. There was so much shit they had to do to transmit the plans, and there was it took forever for the movie to actually be about that, for it to actually be about rebels trying to steal the Death Star plans. Like, it wasn't until halfway through, if not more than that, that was the idea. It took a long time to develop everything to get there. Would you guys, I know that you guys want to talk about other stuff, but would you guys say that was an issue with it as well, that it took too long to get going?
Yeah, that's another complaint that I've seen across the board, where it's
I think that's totally
it's a very
valid.
slow start.
I think that's totally valid. It's not even slow in terms of it's boring. I wasn't bored. I was just waiting for it to get to the point.
Mm-hmm. And let's see, what was one thing I wanted to say?
Yeah, you were going to say something.
About the
I wanted to get that all out there before I forgot.
Yeah. About the climax, it reminded me a lot of the climax to Back to the Future, where there was always like one obstacle after another that Doc and Marty had to fix in order to get the DeLorean to reach 88 miles per hour and get the lightning get the lightning strike to generate the 1.21 gigawatts. Here, it's like they have to do one thing and then another thing and then another thing, and there's one obstacle, then another obstacle just to get the plans to the rebels.
It's a checklist.
What I liked about it is that each of our main characters, and there were quite a few of them, each had something to do in order to accomplish the goal.
It didn't feel like arbitrary busy work to you?
No.
It didn't. I don't think it did for me either, because none of them do a very specific thing that they were kind of developed to do from the get-go. It wasn't like the pilot had to fly the ship through a very specific hole in order to get them somewhere or something. At the end, he had to do a communication tech thing, and that's how he served his purpose and how he bit it in the end. So I think that it worked as well. I just wanted to ask because I think that it's something you kind of walk the line with in a heist movie like this, that every character just kind of feels like they're just there to fill one very specific purpose, and then they have no other kind of attributes to distinguish themselves. And I don't think that was that much of an issue in this, but I think that there were maybe some moments. I liked the blind guy being the one who pressed the button. Maybe a little convenient. Maybe somebody runs out there and goes, let's not let the blind guy be the one who does this. Maybe somebody steps up. Somebody did and they died, but I'm just saying. I liked his friend, though, the guy with the fucking automatic fucking rifle or whatever the hell that was. Oh my god, so cool. And
the guy from fucking Gears of War,
if they ever adapt Gears, man, you got to get him in there. When he waits for that door to open and the shore troopers and the stormtroopers just come running out and he just fucking mows them down, oh, so good. I really would have loved to have seen that gun up against Vader. Because I imagine Vader would have been hit once or twice and then he would have thrown the lightsaber up and just fucked people up with the bolts.
Reminds me of the fucking minigun from Predators. Or
yeah.
Predator, rather, it's used.
We've seen miniguns in Star Wars before, but mostly in animation, so it was cool to finally see something like that in live action. But alright guys, I'm going to be honest with you, I've kind of said everything I believe I was going to say, so if you guys have anything else to say, we can wrap up on that. So who else has got some stuff they want to throw out there?
I guess I
did want to talk about how fucking well this fits in with A New Hope.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. I just watched A New Hope tonight, and definitely.
I watched it the next day after I saw Rogue One, and it fucking fits so perfectly. It actually enhances A New Hope, because now when they blow up the Death Star, you feel the weight of all the people that died in Rogue One to make that possible.
Definitely.
Very true.
You're reminded of Jedha and of Scarif and everything. Yeah, you definitely feel a greater sense of something was accomplished, and it wasn't just it was this potential threat. A lot of people got fucked up by this. It was retribution. But you know what else?
Also, New Hope, you realize how much attention they paid to that when they were writing Rogue One, because at the beginning of New Hope, Darth Vader describes how the plans were stolen by the rebels a little bit. He talks about how they were transmitted and intercepted by the ship.
Yep.
And it's exactly how it happened in Rogue One.
That's what I liked as well. I liked that the rebellion is more detailed now in A New Hope because of Rogue One. When you watch A New Hope, you don't really get a good look or a good understanding of the rebellion until the very end. Until you get to Yavin 4. But in Rogue One, we know what happened, and we know what they're like, and we know what the sacrifices that they made. So we get a better sense of what exactly the conflict that Vader just witnessed is like. So, I don't know, that moment makes a lot more sense, and is just, it's perfect. It perfectly builds into the ending of Rogue One. It's really cool. Just really fun, nostalgic, but also just clever filmmaking that I still think works on its own. I still think you can watch Rogue One and it's still a complete story that tells a very specific narrative that bleeds into A New Hope very well, but also tells a self-contained story that works on its own. Who else has got something to say?
I think Diego Luna might despite having a somewhat of an interesting backstory, I feel like he's probably the least interesting character in the movie.
Okay, he didn't jump out to me either, but I think that he's fucking great as that character, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually thought that Jyn Erso wound up being kind of bland and boring. Yeah,
true.
I can see a bit of that. Yeah,
I thought that her performance was just very flat, or just like one note throughout the majority of the movie. Very similar, oddly, to Aaron Taylor Johnson's depiction of Ford Brody.
You could tell. I think her character got like altered during those reshoots because when you watch
I think you're exactly right. Yep.
You go back and watch the teaser and all the trailers. She seemed like she had more of a personality. She seemed like a sassy dinosaur. And now she's not. She's just not.
She just seems super introverted.
Yeah, now she's just, I am the main character, and now I will do the thing, for I am female space Jesus.
I think you're totally right. There's a lot more destiny worked into her character than I think was initially there, and I think that's to the detriment of her arc and to the detriment of the film.
Another character that definitely got altered via the reshoots is Saw Gerrera. You can tell just because in those teaser trailers he didn't have hair, and now he's got like this weird Jufro going on.
Well, he didn't have hair in the flashback, so that's clearly like he was supposed to be bald the whole time, but then he has the hair in the future sequences to, I don't know, because I guess they could.
Yeah.
They had the money because of Star Wars.
They had to afford that hair.
I do definitely feel like the reshoots are noticeable, and they impacted the film negatively in certain respects.
I mean, there are a lot of things that changed from the trailers to the movie, but I think some of that I think is actually done on purpose by Gareth, because he did that with Godzilla as well. There were things in Godzilla.
He said that wasn't his choice, though. He said that was the marketing people that did that. He told them not to do it, but they wouldn't. They were like, we just take the coolest shots. And he was like, all right.
Like shots that are just like kind of different. Like, perfect example, in Godzilla, you had the scene where Godzilla was roaring at the camera and the door closes, and then in the actual movie there's a very similar shot, except instead of Godzilla roaring at the camera, it's him fighting a Muto and the door closes.
Well, that's because they didn't have the effects finished.
In this, Jyn Erso walks out on a catwalk, and in the trailer a T-fighter comes up in front of her like, you're fucked. But in the movie that doesn't.
Yeah.
Small things like that.
There was definitely some tweaking going on. They didn't break the flow of the movie in the theater for me, but thinking back on it retrospectively, I think it leads to some pacing issues, I think it leads to some structural issues, and I think it just makes the movie feel less confident and less assured as to what it's trying to do. And I feel like that's my general impression on it.
Were you bothered by the tentacle hentai scene?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell
serve a purpose.
Why? What is the deal with Star Wars now? And just we got to throw a weird tentacle monster in? Like that was never really a Star Wars thing. Like the Sarlacc, I guess, but we've
the Sarlacc.
Well, and don't forget the fucking whatever it was called from the trash compactor.
Oh yeah. And I guess in Empire we have the Wampa. Oh, you know what? And we also have that weird fish thing in the swamp that gets R2.
Well, we also have the giant worm. So having a weird random monster thrown into a Star Wars movie is actually an original trilogy trope.
Yeah, and that's also in the prequel trilogy as well.
I thought it made sense for for his character though, for Saw's character.
You know what I didn't? Yeah, no, that was fine. It definitely made sense with his character, and I enjoyed that. But what didn't make sense about it is that I hate it when they do this. They say a rule. Saw goes, it tends to make you a bit crazy. Yeah. Didn't love his voice, by the way. I felt like that was a bit too much. I get why they did it because his voice is fucked up. What?
I said, what are you doing, Forrest Whitaker? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I thought that was too much.
Trying to go for like an old man wheezy voice.
You know, he's supposed to be like struggling to breathe through like a respirator. That's the idea. He's supposed to be like a pseudo Vader type, but it's just hammy. It's just hammy acting.
I like the parallel between him and Vader.
Yes, I enjoy that as well.
Their oxygen problems and their limbs, but
it's like poetry. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Well, and their brutality. They both fuck people up because they think that that's what they have to do.
And it it makes sense for who Saw Gerrera's character was in the Clone Wars cartoon. He was always a bit more on the radical side of the whole freedom fighter type thing.
And do you think that because wasn't he trained directly by Anakin?
So I definitely bought that. I definitely bought the that it was the same character. No, not Anakin. Wait. I think Anakin was there for a little while, but he interacted more with Ahsoka.
Who was Anakin's Padawan? That makes sense. It makes sense that they have those kind of similar quirks, similar lots in life now.
Another reference to the cartoon, when they're at the Rebel base, you can hear them over the intercom saying something about General Syndulla. They're mentioning a Twi'lek named Cham Syndulla, who was featured in the Clone Wars cartoon and Rebels and the novel Lords of the Sith.
I see. Interesting.
Also, another nice little in-joke, the scene where the stormtroopers on Scarif are talking about the T-15 and how it's been discontinued. Mm-hmm. It's very similar to a scene in Force Awakens last year when Rey is sneaking around the base. You can, if you listen closely, hear two of the First Order stormtroopers talking about the T-17s. So I don't know if this is going to be a running gag now. But
that's so bizarre that it just got to the 17 30 years later. Like, what the fuck was going on in those 30 years?
The T-16, man, is where it was at. It was fucking,
I guess that was the pinnacle. They were riding high. All right, well, we're riding high right now. It was
kind of like the PS3. You know, that shit lasted for like 10, 11 years before we eventually got a new console.
Yeah. All right,
sometimes technology is so good you don't want to upgrade yet.
All right, we're riding high, folks, on these Rogue One thoughts. So who else has got something to throw out there to deflate our enjoyment and the high that we're riding? Anybody else got something they want to say? All right then, kids.
K2SO is the best. We haven't established that already.
Again, I totally agree. My favorite moment with him was definitely the moment where he's questioning why Jyn gets to keep the blaster and he doesn't get one at all, and and Cassian goes, I didn't give it to her. Where did you get it? And she goes, I found it. And then K2 goes, I find that answer vague and unconvincing. I love that. He's so sarcastic and he questions everything and very indignant.
Like
he's R2-D2 with a voice, and that's what I love about him.
I feel like
he's like 3PO if you sucked all the pussy out of him and just replaced it with bad attitude.
I think his form of comedic relief helps balance the depressing mood of the film.
But it's more in line with that than a wacky character like BB-8 or R2 or C.
Right. Where it's not like some like, oh, look at this cute little robot like chirping and making silly noises as it falls over. Rather, this one is all about like that. I guess it continues that very pessimistic tone by having that sarcastic wit.
It's definitely darker humor.
If I was going to be stranded on Tatooine with one droid for the rest of my life, I would pick K2SO over BB-8 in a heartbeat.
Yeah, definitely. Because you could actually fucking talk to him.
Last year, everybody lost their minds over BB-8, and I was just like, he's fine, I guess.
I like him a lot.
Die at R2, whatever.
Alright, so guys, I think that's going to do it. This is a bit of a shorter one, but that's cool. I like that we kept it tight. Unlike this,
I was going to say, my favorite part with the K2SO, though, is I think he has the best death in the movie.
Yes.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
He's a droid. Man. Because he's a droid, they can show him getting fucked up, and I mean, it's brutal.
All of the deaths are pretty brutal, but his is the most, like you see the most damage on screen.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the death of the blind man definitely had the biggest impact on me, though. Like, that was the moment where I was like, oh, shit.
I feel that reminded me. I'm really glad that with Donnie Yen's character, they brought the Force back to being more of a religious thing as opposed to simply being bacteria in your blood.
Yeah,
it's about faith. It's about
fucking dumb. Yeah.
Like they make it a big deal that it's all about faith.
That's the big misconception among people, though. The midichlorians were never supposed to be an explanation for what the Force is. They were supposed to be an explanation for why certain people are Force sensitive and others are not.
Right. But their life force creates the force though, or at the very least it exudes it. So you still need them. You're right, but I don't know. It's still kind of dopey. This is bacteria, fucking single cell organisms and shit. I don't want what's at the bottom of my toilet to be giving me superpowers. All right, so I'm tired. I want to end this. No, so I think this was a really good conversation. I feel like we covered a lot of interesting ground. And I feel like once again we've done a good job of taking a Star Wars movie, tearing it apart, and making Star Wars fans want to kick their fucking heads in with our weird interpretation of the universe that they love.
Especially when it comes to Vader and the Emperor.
Yeah. No, that's my favorite. I'm gonna write my own fan fiction about that, where it's just the Emperor is just the biggest pothead, just the most hardcore stoner, and Vader is not into it because he's on a respirator. and the Emperor. That's another way the Emperor fucks with him. He's like, "Oh, Vader, if only you could just take a lungful of just this dank goodness." And Emperor, I don't really even have lungs. I mostly just have a box that just kind of forces air in and out of my body. Well, if only you could force dank goodness in and out of your body, Lord Vader.
Your feeble skills are no match for the ganja.
Oh, can you go pick me up another Q if I give you money?
I love that too.
I get up and get to myself, but it really hit me really hard, and
here's a couple hundred Republican credits.
Okay, two things. One, a couple of hundred is, who are you picking up this Q from? They're ripping you off. You can get a couple of Qs for that. And then, this is the Empire, Lord Vader. We got some Imperial credits.
How pissed would you be, though, if you spent all this time in training in martial arts and shit, and you became an Imperial Guard, which is, like, the highest, most, like, elite Imperial force you can possibly be, and you get assigned to watch Lord Vader when he's taking a fucking bath? Like,
maybe it'd be like, wow, best job ever.
I bet that
it's like the easiest job ever.
Okay, I wonder if Vader can hear them, because you got to imagine one of them turns to the other at a certain point and goes, "I bet you $5 he farts and we can see it." And then eventually,
how much you want to bet he ain't got no dick right now?
You just see a couple bubbles and you're like, "Oh, you owe me $5."
Disney, if you're listening, you got to give me a movie at some point where we actually get to see some Imperial Guards fight some shit, because it's canon, it's part of the universe that they're like these super elite troops, but all we ever get to see them do is standing around.
Because they're just high all the time from the contact high from hanging out with the Emperor. He just hotboxes it with them. He's like, "Guys, everybody pile in. Let's close the doors and windows. Let's ride the magic dragon together, guys." He's just like, "Who wants to see me force lightning a watermelon?" "Jerry, I know you do." Jerry.
Everybody raises their hands after a few minutes of pretending they're not interested.
Because they all know they want to see it, yeah. Did I ever tell you guys about the time a black man fucked me up? Not. Might be. That was unnecessary.
No.
Alright, let's wrap this up.
Well, it turns out one of the Imperial Guards
fuck
is
me.
black.
What do you want? Nah, it's just
one of the Imperial Guards is black, and he gets offended. Jerry, I didn't mean it like that.
I'm sorry, man. It's this new strain. Sometimes I say things I don't really mean. I just wish I could make a fun black joke every now and then. I mean, you guys ever wonder that?
I'm sure we've all been there before.
Did you guys know I can make some crazy smoke formations with the Force?
I mean, you should have known how racist I was. I mean, have you ever noticed there's a severe lack of non-humans around here?
Gotta be honest with you guys. I mean, those Wookiees, I think they might be taking our jobs. I mean, I don't mean to talk shit. I mean, the Emperor's just like, I don't mean to talk shade, but I fuck him. To be honest,
I like the idea that a couple of the stormtroopers are just like rednecks from South Park, and when he says, "I think the Wookiees are taking our jobs," they're like, "You're taking our jobs."
Oh, see, here's what I also love. So we were just talking about the Emperor hotboxing with the Imperial guards in like, you know, the Imperial Palace or wherever. Let's say the Emperor is just like, he's going on an intergalactic voyage or whatever. He's just walking around the ship. He dished the guards. He's got like a grinder or whatever full of weed. And he just opens up, like, he opens up a door and he just goes into, like, the jacuzzi from, like, the Lego Star Wars games. Like, the stormtroopers are, like, partying or whatever. They're all taking a bath. They're all in their bathing suits. They see him. They're like, oh, shit, sir, we were all just, we can explain. And he's like, no, don't worry about it, guys. Let's get down, my broskies. And then he just closes the door. Fucking party's on. He takes off his robe and he's got, like, a Speedo on. And they all instantly regret it.
So did you guys hear about the T-15s?
I outlawed them. Because fuck those manufacturers.
It's about time, if you ask me.
Sold me a faulty T-14. Got a bargain for that shit.
I think we may have gone too far in a few places.
I think we may have dragged this joke out a bit. You may be right, Andre. So let's cut it off there. That's going to do it for this end of the year 2016 episode of the Sons of Serizawa podcast. It is actually New Year's Eve, in my time anyway, as we're recording this. So we're wishing you all a very happy 2017, regardless of all the shit we had to put up with this past year. But we had a couple good movies to satiate us, and Rogue One was definitely one of them, for me anyway. So
yes, you're hoping that next year's slate of movies turns out to be much less disappointing.
We'll see. I'm not sold. I'm not sold. That Tom Cruise mummy movie is probably going to be shit. Anyway, so like us on Facebook to bring us into the new year. Your New Year's resolution should be to like the Sons of Serizawa Network homepage. You should recommend that resolution to everybody you know, so that way that we can just get more people following our shit. Because we just want attention, goddammit. We just want to be acknowledged and appreciated.
We just want to be loved.
We just want to be loved. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So until next time, I'm Bill. Oh, well, next time I should just say we're going to do a sort of abbreviated version of Andres' Rockin' Eve, because it's not going to be the Rockin' Eve anymore, because technically that's right now. But we're going to do a 2016 retrospective leading into the new year. But Andres, keep that with, like, the big moments. Like, pick one thing per month, if even that. Or like maybe four or five things for the whole year.
Yeah.
One celebrity death per month.
Well, no, open with all the celebrities and then a couple of big stories, and then I want to do some cryptid shit, man. I got some 2016 like Loch Ness Monster stuff I want to do. I want to wrap up with that. And just get all the cryptid stuff for the year, kind of.
Gee, I wonder what on earth we'll talk about with regards to November.
Oh.
What happened in November? Oh, all right. That's when those pictures came out. I forgot. I haven't looked. I looked at those like 3 weeks ago in preparation for that other episode we did. Never did it. Anyway, so that we'll do all that next time. Should be a blast. We look forward to seeing you next year in 2017, kids. Have a happy new year. I'm Bill Worster, a.k.a. Zazubaar.
Super Damn 64.
And I'm Andres Perez, a.k.a. Kaiju Noir. And ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly the way it's been.
He was David. He brushes his teeth in the middle of a podcast because he's a fucking weirdo. And that's the Sons of Serizawa podcast for the week. The Science of Sound, kids.